Well, thanks everyone for sticking around. This shouldn't take too long, but I know this seed funding program is of great interest to a lot of folks. So now that we've heard these great talks from Naoki and from Chris, and we've heard a little bit about the theme areas from the panel, we want to tell you a little bit more about how we can start to fund some of these early collaborations. So an initial overview of the seed funding program. We want to leverage the tradition here at Illinois of these long-term interdisciplinary research teams that we see across campus, as well as leveraging the education projects as well. So the seed funding program will offer up to $50K per award in seed funding for 1 year's time. These awards are going to be made. They're going to be subject to the availability of funds and also based on the review panel recommendations. So we're not exactly sure the exact number we'll be awarding. We do know we're going to have multiple calls for proposals, so this will just be the initial one. But we'll have a better idea, I think, after this first call for proposals, what we're going to be doing. So the who, we're looking for interdisciplinary teams with at least 2 PIs in different domain areas. So when I say different domain areas, this could be a PI in agriculture and then a PI in engineering, for example. They can also be staff members as well, so they don't have to necessarily be tenure track faculty. The proposal should focus on at least one thematic area. It's great if they focus on more than one. But I would highly encourage you to go back and to read the white paper if you haven't done so already. Get more details on what the theme areas are looking for, and then see if you can come up with a collaboration idea around one of these. The when. So the deadline to apply is April 5th. We put out the call a couple weeks ago, and so now we have a couple more weeks for folks to submit proposals. And we're expecting to make final decisions and announce these by May 1st. So as I mentioned, we're asking folks to focus on the 4 theme areas that we have around data, crops and animals, automation, and people in agriculture. Again, an example of PIs from different domains would be civil engineering and crop sciences, for example. PI responsibilities. So they're pretty straightforward and simple. The expectation is that PIs will give us a brief mid-year update on how their project is going. This will be pretty simple and straightforward. At the end of the award, we would ask that the PIs deliver a presentation as well as a written report on the outcomes of the project and how they see the future of the collaboration going with the center. So, for example, are there external funding opportunities they plan to pursue at the conclusion of the project and things like that. And then finally, if the projects are successful and it appears that there is going to be opportunity to pursue external funding, our hope is that these proposals would be submitted through the Center for Digital Agriculture, and we can turn these into long-term collaborations. So proposal preparation and submission, again, pretty straightforward here. The proposal itself is only 3.5 pages. We have a half page for the abstract, and then 3 pages for the actual project description. 5 areas that we want folks to focus on here. The first is the project significance. So what critical problem are you addressing in the field? Is it relevant across both the agriculture and the engineering space? Investigators, are the investigators well suited to the work? Innovation, again, what's innovative about the project idea that you're bringing forward? Approach and future potential. So the more specific you can be here, the better, but we want to know not only what your plans are for the year that you'll be using the seed funding, but also your plans beyond that. How do you plan to grow this and turn this into a long-term collaboration? And finally, the environment. Where will you be conducting the work? What resources will you be using? Things like that. And then, of course, the boilerplate information at the end. So the references cited, bio sketches for the PI and co-PIs. Feel free to use whichever format you use most frequently. So NSF, AFRI, or DOE are just fine. And then the budget and budget justification, which I'll touch on here in a minute. I know some folks are familiar with EasyChair, others maybe not. We do have a link on our website, I believe, that'll send you directly to the Center for Digital Agriculture seed funding page. If you've not used EasyChair before, then I would just ask you to create an account, and then it'll take you right to the page and you can submit your proposal. If you have any issues submitting your proposal, please feel free to reach out to me and I can help walk you through the process. So budgets. Again, projects can request up to $50K for 1 year funding. These budgets do not need to include benefits or tuition remission, overhead, anything like that. The funds can be used for research assistant support, so GRAs, postdocs, undergrads, whatever's appropriate for your project. It can also be used for faculty summer salary. The funding can be used for travel support. However, we ask that this pertain directly to the research development rather than travel to conferences or things like that. At this time, we're not expecting to fund any capital equipment, although we'll see, what we get in this first round of proposals. So review criteria. We do have a full list of review criteria that we'll be posting on our website with the seed funding call. However, we wanted to call out a few specific areas to address. So the first is, does the project address an important problem or a critical barrier? So I touched on this a little bit earlier. If the project aims are achieved, how is this going to advance the field, the scientific knowledge, or even the technical capability? Number 3, does the project include PIs from different domain areas? We're going to be prioritizing new teams, new collaborations, especially teams that have never pursued funding together. The 4th area is, how strong are the plans to generate ongoing external funding? So proposals should include practical plans to initiate these long-term collaborations, preferably identifying one or more specific funding opportunities. So for example, if you know that there's a solicitation that NSF puts out on a regular basis, you could point to that. Or if you know that there's going to be an emphasis from USDA in a particular area, that would be something you could point to as well. All right, that's all I have, but I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Is it clear how many proposals we are anticipating in supporting through the Digital Ag? How many awards?
So some of that will depend on the funds that are available and the reviews that come in, also the number of proposals that are received. As I mentioned, we're anticipating having multiple calls, but again, it'll be a little bit dependent on what we see in this first round.
Do you expect the PIs or co-PIs to be part of the Digital Ag Center, or can it be people external to that as well?
So I'm not sure we really have a formal list of folks.
So you're asking about the Digital Ag Center.
Mm-hmm.
So, that University of Illinois would be the big deal.
Yeah, but so question is whether or not we can work with people from Arizona or people from industry or...
You're welcome to include people from outside Illinois on the proposal. I think the funding probably wouldn't go to them. The funding we're allocating here would have to be spent here at Illinois, because it's really a small amount of funding and we want to try and maximize the impact internally. But having people from outside would be terrific too, especially if it expands the impact and the value of the proposal.
You said the proposals could include staff, but do you require at least one tenure track PI?
I don't think so, no. Thank you. Yep, good research is what we're looking for, good collaborations. Anyone else? All right, great.
So you want to say something about the reception and the networking today?
Yes, absolutely. So following this talk. We actually have a reception that'll be taking place right out here in the lobby. We highly encourage everyone to attend, to have conversations with folks, to figure out what some of those initial collaborations might be. We also have we have a couple of breaks tomorrow morning, and we also have a lunch as well. So we encourage everyone to come back tomorrow, take part in those, and again, to have these networking discussions and see if you can put something together for the seed funding call, because we'd love to have everyone apply. All right, anything else? Okay, great, thank you, everyone.